How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Make It and Break It. My name's Andrew. Today we're working again on our Project HyperTenre 1999 Yamaha R6. We're trying to make it into a dirt bike, or an adventure bike at the very least, maybe a dual sport. But to do that, we've had to do some drastic things in order to make it comfortable, at least for me, to ride off-road. There are some smaller people out there who could have probably ridden it off-road just fine the way it was. I'm not one of those people. So we've got some custom foot peg mounts down here that are really good, and the position I really like, except for one thing. And that one thing is they get in the way of the kickstand coming up, specifically on the left-hand side where the kickstand is. So today we're gonna try and fix that. So the issue with our kickstand was, when we tried to bring it up, I'm gonna use this for example, down everything fit just fine, right? So this will be down and this will be somewhere over here, right? When we tried to bring it up, thing's super dirty. I should be wearing gloves for this. This would come through here. Now, I don't think the kickstand itself, ugh, that's a terrible visual for you guys. This would come through here. So I don't think the kickstand itself would actually hit our piece. At least that's what I'm hoping on right now, which is our first plan for today. But the kickstand, and every kickstand, has a spring. And so this spring ran from this post right here over to this little hook thing over here. And that was running into this. So that was doing that, and that was not good. And this kickstand wasn't getting all the way up. It was probably up enough, but might as well get all the way up if we can. So the idea here today is to do what we need to do to make sure this kickstand clears that side rear set. It's not even a rear set anymore, that side foot control setup. So we've got a plan, and the plan took a while to get to. Had some clutch troubles on the Doritos Locos. Talk about that next time we get to that car. But the first plan is actually to try and reuse this, and that's because I think we can create a new pickup point for the springs and everything, and get a new spring, because I think I screwed that one up accidentally. I didn't really mean to do that. I probably shouldn't have done that. We're gonna drill a new pickup point like this, although I think we're just gonna make it out of a bolt because that should work okay, I think. Here, and then relocate a new spring to somewhere else that gets it out of the way of our foot controls. And I think there's a couple spots on that side of the engine that might work. But first thing I want to do is get rid of this gunky mess that's right here. So this is leftover chain lube that's mixed with dirt and sand and everything that's not awesome about motorcycling, and it collected right here at the bottom of the chain where it flings back around and heads back. Collected right there on the sensor for the kickstand that stops you from like riding away when you go into first gear, and it'll kill the bike. So we're gonna get rid of that because we're not gonna need that here soon. We're gonna put in a jumper that basically eliminates the need for that sensor. It's maybe not the best thing to do for a street bike. If you're gonna ride around every day, I mean, maybe you wanna keep that kickstand sensor there. But for a dirt bike, it's just an extra sensor hanging down very low that can hit something and break and then strand you out in the middle of nowhere. So getting rid of this sensor, it would be nice. So that's what we're doing first. We're gonna try this out, and my plan is to actually drill and tap a new hole right here, give or take, on the arm. And so what that will hopefully do is let me reposition the spring somewhere up in here-ish area. And because of the motion and everything else, it should work just fine like that, assuming I get the right strength of spring. I've got a new set of springs coming in. Hopefully they come in soon so I can finish that. And yeah, so we're gonna get going on disassembling this goopiness, and then maybe I'll see you guys over in the workshop area where we're gonna try and drill our hole. So, should be fun. Okay, so we're at the bench. We got this thing. I checked out the fit a couple times and kind of picked an area where I want And I actually just tested my punch and drill here. But I want to show you guys a quick bit in case you didn't know how these work. Kickstands work via a spring system that actually is pulling the spring both up and back depending on how far it is to travel. That's why these perches are offset. So what this does is it allows this to be shorter than this, right? Allows this to be on the shorter end of the circle. So if your spring is still in tension, then it'll want to pull these two together, which pulls it up. And if you kick it out, which would be this position, well, this is crossing over the circle here too with the spring. And so this is on the other side of the short part of the circle. Maybe I'll come up with a good picture to show you guys, but this is also on the short side of the circle, so it wants to pull these two together so it keeps the kickstand out. The problem is this pathway here is getting in the way of our foot controls. So I'm gonna attempt to relocate where those go. So the first thing to do is to relocate this somewhere where it's more convenient, and it won't get the spring, the new spring, in the way of our foot controls. So the first idea is to actually put it really far up here, and then we'll relocate where this spring mounts and use a different spring. We'll actually mount the spring somewhere up over here-ish, I think. So when that happens, if it's mounted up over here, this same angle is now on the short, it's now trying to pull everything together, which will keep the foot down. And when you mount it up over here like this, on this angle, this is also going to try and keep it short and keep it pulling up. So it's the same idea, we're just relocating everything. We're going to give this a shot. This thing doesn't really hold in these vices very well in anything I have because of its irregular shape. You can see I can just kind of push it out, which is not ideal for trying to drill into this. So I think what we're going to have to do is do something like this. This is not how I'd suggest doing this. This is just how I have to do it to give it a shot. And then we'll put on all of our stuff and see what happens. So this is what we were working on, and I actually got it in about the space I wanted to. It's a little bit off to the left, which exacerbated the first problem we had. But the idea was to have a hole here and then have a bolt or some sort of fastener go in here and then string one of these three from here to a, there's a fastener on the chain guide cover that's right up about here, so that we'd get the same sort of closing action at full open and full close, such that everything would close just fine. Problem is, I ignored at least one rule of fabrication, if not more. First, this is not necessarily a rule, but if you're going to do anything by hand, make sure it's on a flat surface. This is not. This is a fully contoured cast piece of crap surface. And so when I did everything off to the left, it just shifted everything and such that I didn't get a really good hole. And my taps, which are here, and I brought both sets out, another one's over here somewhere. My taps couldn't get a good grip on anything, so I think I ended up ruining one of my taps, which is annoying. Although this is aluminum, taps are supposed to be hardened steel, so I'm not sure how those taps folded over unless these taps are also bad, which could be. The rule I know I ignored is always know what's on the back side of your always know what's on the back side of what you're fabricating, and make sure it's not going to screw you over. In this case, I didn't. So I drilled right here because that's a great spot for putting a new you know, hook for this thing here. Problem is, right behind it, like legitimately directly behind where I was drilling, is all of this stuff, and this is actually a threaded hole. This hole is for a bolt and bracket combo here. This bolt and bracket combo goes on right here, and it actuates the sensor for the kickstand position sensor, so that all the sensors work and everything. This actually actuates the plunger that does that. So that was right behind, and it actually drilled right into it. So it's hard to see, but there's an actual through hole through this part now, which is funny, and I actually thought about doing that in the first place, but I never actually thought to, you know, check the backside. So that kind of screwed up that hole as well. So always check the backside of your stuff, whether you're welding and, you know, oops, don't want to weld on a gas tank, you know, right? At least one that's full of gas. That sort of stuff. So always check the backside. I didn't, and it kind of screwed that up. So that has kind of failed, and a lot of the stuff down here will have the same problems, and the farther we get away from this pivot here, the worse it's going to get in terms of trying to make sure all the clamping force when it's up, which is where we really care about it, is good. So my next idea, since this is going to fail, is to actually replace the springs. So I've actually already started doing it. This is the normal spring setup, and it was from here, and these pieces went down around this this little out piece here. And because this thing is so freaking huge, it was running into my rear sets. So what I'm gonna do here is actually I'm gonna try and set this up so that I'm not running into my rear sets when I do this. And I'm gonna replace these springs with one of these springs. I got these on Amazon. They seem pretty good, good enough anyway. The link in the description is down below if you need like a set of kickstand springs or tension springs just in general. These are various different lengths and styles so that you can pick and choose what works best for your kickstand or whatever you need the springs for. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take these springs here off this perch and put one of these springs on here and then see if that works. So here we go. Oops. Let's go try it out. All right, we are installed. Oh, there's stuff all over this motorcycle. Hold on. All right, we're installed. Bring my leg over here. This thing's on a stand, so it's real awkward. But do that, and see, it goes all the way up and impacts on its little piece right here, and nothing really hits our foot peg mount. So it looks like we've actually figured something out here. I should have figured out it was real easy just to replace the spring. Probably should have done that first. Sometimes it just goes to show you that the coolest, most complex solutions aren't always the correct ones. So instead of having to rejig everything, I just had to replace the spring with a smaller spring. I do want to admit to it though that I did have to swap the springs between when you saw me mount it and then when you saw the test. The spring I had on, which was this spring, the spring I had on, which is this spring, it was just a little too long. So when the kickstand was in its highest position, which is also the shortest position for the spring, which is up where it rests right now with it not being deployed, it actually wasn't really holding it up. So I could like bump the kickstand and it would just move and stay. And it was acting more like a damper than it was a spring pulling it back. Which is really bad. Because if stuff stays and it doesn't stop it, then it's just more likely to catch on something. So I did have to go back and put on the smaller spring, but it was a repeat of the same process with a little bit more cursing. That's really the difference. But we now have a working kickstand that doesn't interfere with the rest of our custom pieces, so that's nice. And I think we're gonna call it there for this episode. Next episode, we're probably going to be working on crash protection and skid plates and stuff like that using some new 3D printed tooling and measurement tooling. So definitely pay attention and stay tuned for that. But I'm gonna leave you here. So thanks for watching, guys. My name's Andrew. This has been another Make It and Break It YouTube channel video. If you liked the video, definitely hit like. If you didn't, dislike it and let me know why, please. Comments are always appreciated and I try to answer them as soon as possible. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, all of those things, definitely throw them in the comment section down below. If you like what we're doing in this channel, we have motorsports builds like this. We've got an RX-8 race car that's got a bad clutch right now. And we do some technology and 3D printing and modern manufacturing and throw it in with a lot of old school stuff too. If any of that stuff sounds interesting, definitely hit subscribe and hit that bell icon so that you get notified when we put out a new video. So again, guys, thanks for watching. My name's Andrew, and I'll catch you later.